please, Senator Aubrey McCarthy.
Thank you for being here today. Andre, you sort of surprised me there when you were talking about Ireland was always seen as a centre for excellence in this industry, and yet we were seen as leaders, but we're not at the same pace anymore, and that we're still a successful domicile, as you said, but now we're not seen as attractive as some of our European counterparts. And then, Éireann, you mentioned that we're fighting harder to even get to the same level of equivalence, as you say. So I'm just, even in your opening statement, you mentioned about the urgency, and from your perspective, there's an urgency needed. I'm wondering, what is the biggest headwind, as you put it, that's facing you in the Irish economy, in this industry?
That's really interesting for me in terms of what I've often described to my global colleagues, what is Ireland's role in asset management generally. And I explained to them that alongside being a domicile where we host a lot of assets, we have become the global project management hub for asset management. We used to be very much what we would call back office in terms of teams of accountants crunching numbers. Technology replaced the accountants, but we took those jobs and we pivoted into, sorry Andrea, we pivoted into a new world where we have actually become central to that global outlook. The piece that we have, from my perspective looking at it, I often say my role is in sales. I sell Ireland internally to my company. I'm constantly trying to sell what the opportunity is to put people here, what relevance we think we have in roles that we can, and value adds that we can add. And to that very point, I'm currently in the process of doubling the size of our office here. So we actually see that as more jobs, more well-paid jobs for qualified graduates to help and develop within the country. The issue that we have, as I see it, is that it's almost like we have a project management problem at a country level. And I'll just give the example, Pat Larda referred to tokenisation. So we're talking about digital change and digital transformation. We launched the Fund's 2030 review to much fanfare in October 2004. We had an update on that in October 2005, and we're now into May 2025, sorry.
20 years later.
We are 24 and 25.
24 okay. And 25, let the record state. We are now into May of 26, and on that, we are still, in terms of the legislative change required to underpin our ability to have tokenised product, it is still, quote unquote, in progress. So if I'm asked by an external stakeholder, where is Ireland currently on its journey towards having its infrastructure ready for tokenised product, I will say it's in progress. They'll say, what does that mean? I have nothing further. I don't have a date. I don't have a responsibility. I don't have anything further that I can add to that. And that is a communication point. If I have the information, if someone tells me, well, it's going to be the 5th of November, then I can communicate that and we understand where we're at.
And so, Éireann, do you think it's delays, such as the delays in legislation, that's what's making us less attractive?
To be clear, other jurisdictions have a much easier path to explain in terms of where they're at. And as I often say, once you're explaining, you're slightly behind.
McCarthy, can I briefly interrupt? Could you mind telling the committee, I think it would be interesting for us to know this, and it's a good question he asked, the Senator asked, where? We say other countries. Can you tell us who's doing a good job?
So, to that point, last week I was on a panel at a conference in Luxembourg, and the head of the CSSF, who's the central bank equivalent, the regulator within Luxembourg, was very clear in terms of tokenisation being a huge opportunity for Europe. To be very clear, it's an opportunity for Europe, and we are part of that opportunity. But he was also able to confirm that they had put in place 4 implementing pieces of legislation that meant that they had the road ready and prepared, that when the tokenised products arrive, they are ready to hit the road in terms of developing that. Now, we are, as I often describe, as fast followers, but it'd be much easier if we had articulated a clearer, cleaner path, because there's a lot of energy at the minute trying to establish that.
And if we had the cleaner path, what difference would it make then?
So, I mean, what we see and our experience at the moment is when we are talking to clients about putting those types of funds where they're going to domicile them in Europe to distribute them globally to global investors. they are getting a better answer in other jurisdictions than they are getting in Ireland, and they are voting with their feet. And a number of these funds have been domiciled in other countries in Europe, rather than putting them into Ireland. So
it's all about speed and about the reaction time when government revert.
Yeah, okay. And there's a similar, I would say there is a similar piece in relation to speed around regulation and some of the gold plating that we talked about earlier, where firms, because we are making it a bit more difficult than it is to do it somewhere else in terms of different types of asset classes, they are managers that have a presence already in Ireland, and they are now putting a presence in another jurisdiction because it is more difficult to do it here than it is.
And can you quantify that, what we're missing out on?
I suppose I might come in there. So the difference between our industry and many others is that if we see another, and particularly in manufactured goods, you see a factory is created, a number of jobs. The decisions in our industry are happening every day. So I would say that our lived experience is that we were early adopters in the exchange-traded fund space, as Deputy Conway Walsh asked about earlier on. And we have a very, very large and significant share there. When it comes to enabling investments into private companies, whether that being equity into those companies or lending them money, we were very, very slow. And we didn't transpose or we didn't implement it the same way. And we have lost significant ground there. The tokenization piece that we refer to now is about how our funds across many different types are going to be delivered into the future. And because of the fact that there are, as we said, decisions being made every day, if you are not right at the start of the beginning of a change in behavior and commercial activity, well then, and someone has already established their next fund someplace else, getting them to move back. So the best business we have is the business we already have that we can grow. And that means agility. The next best piece is the brand new business that we can win, which we will only win with agility.
Okay, and I'm hearing that, and I'm hearing we need speed, I'm hearing we need agility, we need to revert with legislation. So what does success look like to you guys? What do we need to do?
So I think success looks like a policy, legislative and regulatory system that is very, very clear about what is changing in the marketplace in terms of the investor need, because that's what we're here to deliver, that we work with them in collaboration to agree specific outcomes, whether that be legislative change, regulatory change, within timelines that are workable. And again, the industry funds this activity. And that we then work, as we do already with our enterprise agencies and our own activity, to aggressively go out and to promote that business internationally and to make sure, and that's why the presidency, as it comes up, is an important spotlight. I mean, we are providing a very important function here to the capital markets of Europe, and we're going to have a spotlight in this country in the next 6 months. For the point of view of competitiveness and enterprise policy, we really want to use it. And I think
just one final question then, Éireann. You mentioned that you have in your department a lot of new jobs being created. I'm just wondering how many of those, percentage-wise, are going to be Indigenous? How many from Ireland?
That depends very much on the application process. I would say at the minute, the majority obviously are, but we are all European citizens. And at the minute, particularly in the post-Brexit environment, we are delighted to see so much European talent, which we are getting to take a benefit of. There's some phenomenal Italian graduates coming into us. We have some phenomenal Irish graduates. And what's wonderful about it is I have about 15, as I call the under 30s in the office, and I'm a way away from that at this point. But to see what they're developing in terms of their energy, and to back to the AI point, because I think that's actually really instructive for us, is AI, we will have a similar number of jobs today or in the future as we have today. The opportunity for us is the additional jobs that are created by AI and technology, the additional jobs that are created in terms of melding, and Ireland's story of we actually have the tech infrastructure ecosystem and individuals alongside the asset management and project management experience. When you marry those together, we have a very compelling story for the next few years if we can get the ecosystem, and that is the ecosystem, to Pat's point, working, and the messaging provided for us so we can go out and sell and bring in those additional jobs.
Thank you, Caelan.
Thank you very much, Senator McCarthy. Just